on that other side, the female side, is enforceable at law.
Well, let's hear what our brother James Sexton has to say.
Because here's the problem. Here's the problem with modern marriage from a man's perspective, as far as I'm concerned. Most of the marriages I know, okay, the man provides financially. He protects, right? He, you know, he's also there to be part of the family dynamic, taking care of kids, doing the things that he can do. What does the woman bring? She brings love, affection, a little bit of sweetness at the end of the day, you know, sex. She brings, you know, taking care of kids. Okay. If you get divorced, every single thing on that side of the man equation, he can be compelled to do by the power of the state. And if he fails to do it, they can put him in jail. Nothing on that other side, the female side, is enforceable at law.
Salute to my brother James Sexton. And he makes a compelling argument. Let me remove that here from the stream. Salute to everybody joining me today. Let me get that out of there. Yes, there we go. Salute to everybody joining me today. And the reason why I want to have this stream really is to refocus back on the things that are most important today. And I think lately we got distracted by the Anton Daniels, Corey Holcomb beef, where we started focusing on issues that I think are mostly distractions in men's spaces. And part of my interest in the whole situation was the disrespect that is shown towards men, especially with false allegations levied at some of the brothers earlier, brothers who travel overseas, or linking them to certain illegal activities overseas when they're just living life on their own terms. Salute my man D, first in the house. Peace and blessings to you. But that's what's the, you know, guys, make sure you hit the like button and share the content coming through, folks. Appreciate you guys joining me today, just getting started. But obviously beefs happen because men, we have our egos, we have our pride, and respect is big. And when men feel disrespected, things happen. They either respectfully and amicably agree to walk away, you know, and that's usually the end of it. But if chatter continues on, then it's going to get to the point where it's going to get loud, and possibly, if individuals don't show a certain level of restraint, it could end up physically getting violent. But in this scenario, we're talking about internet beefs. And again, I don't know anybody who's crazy enough to tangle with comedians, but they do this stuff for a living, jokes. So it can get brutal. But more importantly, it's still a distraction. It's a distraction from the points and the things that matter to men, which is the environment for which men exist in here in the West, which in my opinion is an absolute total, you know, gynocentric gynocracy that men live in, where the female perspective is the dominant perspective of the environment. And these men beefing is a distraction from things that need to be changed structurally with this society, specifically the laws that exist in this culture. When we get distracted, nobody's talking about alimony, child support, you know, unfair laws. What's up, my brother Top Gun? Salute. Salute, my brother. But when guys get up in these ego battles, they're not focusing on the real things that create these problems. In my opinion, and I've always said it before, the manosphere, the red pill, passport bros, or any type of, any type of movement is just a reaction to the current environment, the current conditions that we see today. But nobody wants to address the elephant in the room. The Scott Galloway's won't talk about it. He's only talking about men being better for worse. The legal system that currently exists today. even if people can make the argument that it punishes the person that has the most resources or the most income, generally it is very favorable in a woman's favor, where there's certain societal defaults that are put in place with certain types of judges or the administration of law, or how they enforce or how they award custody and settlements and resources. And generally in this society, the men tend to be the more ambitious in terms of earning potential, and they're penalized for that. Because we're dealing with a modern society, a modern woman, a modern reality where marriages just don't last. And if you have these antiquated, outdated laws based on a time period that no longer exists, and a social contract that is gone, but we're trying to hold men to these traditional values, traditional standards, traditional expectations. We want to hold men to that. That's why I make these videos when we talk about what is a real man anymore in 2025, 2026, and beyond. What is a real man? And basically it's defined. Nobody can really say, because what is a real man? Everybody has this, when you talk about a real man, everything that comes in that conversation after that is about what benefits everybody else, what's good for society. And that's why one of the issues I have with the TradCons as well, they want to talk about what's good for everybody else. And I like the young lady, Just Pearly Thing, she asks the question all the time, what's in it for men? What's in it for men? And nobody can really ask that question. They're not getting any virtuous women. Then the social contracts is there. Women are not raised to be any wives or whatever else. In fact, most women are raised to manage, to enjoy sexual liberation and have their sexual freedom when they're young. And what exactly are you getting? And again, this is an environment completely about who feels it knows it. And the men out here encouraging men to get married to these women under the current laws, this is what happens to them. When you get into a contract and it goes wrong, under the current system we have, these pastors or these guys on the internet telling men to get under these secular marriage contracts in the West, none of them can see you. None of them are going to stand up for you. When your contract goes bad, all of these guys, and I got into this conversation with one of the brothers I had to sit down with. I asked him the question. So you telling these guys to go out here and sign these legal contracts and get married. If it doesn't work out with these modern women who've enjoyed quite a bit of sexual liberation, are you going to back them up? Are you going to be there for these guys when they're about to take that bridge? And he got quiet because what he thinks is you can pray it away. But this is a state legal contract. The church has no authority on the division of your assets. That's going to be decided by a judge, a family court judge. And they're going to take your resources. So all these dudes that are giving men advice, you can't find them. Put them on a missing person card when things go bad. He said, listen, Grant 6481 said, not signing over hundreds of thousands of dollars to an ex-wife. Yeah, oh hell yeah. It's madness. Dudes are literally getting ravaged, losing houses, losing cars, losing their 401k, 403, going into deep, dark depressions, walking around here like walking zombies, living at the hotel or in their mama's basement. Hopefully grandma or mom's still around to house you in their basement. They're getting cleaned out. Dudes are getting fake protection from abuse orders passed to being filed against them. I'm not going to give them too much education because they might be using my videos to go use it against some dude. They're getting abuse orders and forcing dudes out of the house, then alienating the kids against them, playing their power in a gynocentric society against a man. And they want men to walk in there, these pastors and all these guys want men to walk in there blindly and sign these contracts. And we see all the guys, the Amon trumpets of the world, the Kevin Costners, the Will Smith, the Tom Brady's, all these people are going through hell. People with or without money are going through it. So it doesn't really matter your economic state. It's just that the current environment, where there's a lot of pressure and distractions, marriage is under tremendous distractions and pressure nowadays. Social media, they say envy is the most deadly of the seven deadly sins, because it makes people covered. It makes people unhappy and at peace. And when you have a woman or people, well, men are easy to please for most men. But when you have comparisons to thief of joy and social media, where that person is looking globally at the fake lives of other people, women in particular, that's why you see all these women on TikTok and on Instagram and on Facebook bashing their husbands, their hard-working, dedicated husband. They're beating them down, smashing their heads in, talking bad about them. The guys at work, working a 12-hour shift, salute. How you put it? Yes, himmy, she. Yes, shit. I gotta say it right. Salute to you, my brother. Salute to you. But again, dude's working his ass off, trying to provide for his family, and chicks on TikTok making videos and shit, having conversations. Because you took a modern woman and put her in a house. And what happens when you take something, that belongs out here in these wild streets, and you put it in a house and make it a wife? You're going to get problems at your house. It doesn't belong in the house. It belongs out here in the street. And I see a lot of people out here, especially these older women out here, gaslighting value. Like, I see a lot of old, burnt out women from my generation. They use the church, religious backdoor, rebrand themselves as brand new, trying backdoor. I'm celibate now with 200 bodies. I want to get somebody to marry me and make me a wife. You got 200 bodies. You've been out here in the street all day long. At least that's why I have a problem with these trad cons. Oh, she repented of her sins. And now she's brand new again. That's all they got to do is go down to the church and get one of these conservatives or whatever and tell them they repent of their sins. They could be OnlyFans 304. They could be all kinds of rebranded women. Or the old women like Dr. Cheyenne Brand that be out here gaslighting value. The woman is shitting you. Everybody trying to resell these packages. I know a chicken head when I see it, but some of the other brothers may not. You can't rebrand that. It's like a fruit when it's plucked from the tree. It ripens and if it's not consumed, it goes bad. You can't rebrand that fruit. You can't put that fruit back on the tree once it's plucked from the tree. It's just going to ripen and it has to be consumed or it's going to expire. But we seem to have this thing in this culture, when we do this rebranding that happens in this culture, and it's crazy out here. It's crazy. But nobody wants to talk about that. And salute to all the brothers that are in. Guys, make sure you hit the like button. If you want to support the channel, you can. You can do it through Cash App, or you can do it. I don't want to put that Cash App on there. Maybe I'll put it down there because we got to keep the channel. We keep the message going. We keep the message going, keep the channel going. But again, we're going to talk about, you go to the church, you talk about the pastor and everybody else. These dudes that be turning up missing, right? Let's talk about them. I see them all on the internet. Just do it. Just do it. Just get under the secular contract. Just do it. Just do it. But you can't find them when shit go bad. You said, you're being generous, my guy, maybe 1,000 times. Yes, it's bad, bro. Yeah, he said they all have a hive mind. Don't fall for the BS. Make them earn commitment. Oh, yeah. I think what happens inevitably, man. But not just earn the commitment, like I see some of the old 304s, because what they do now is the old ones, they'll try and get the dude that they wouldn't date when they were 22 to commit to them for a marriage. The best thing for older broad is to get the dude that they wouldn't date at 23, 24. And if he hasn't become aware or he hasn't become developed as a man, if he's like a Boyce Watkins type thirsty, he's going to take that deal. He's going to be like, oh, finally I get the woman I didn't get when I was 24, 23. She finally has 3 kids and she got older. Now she going to accept me. And he's the type of dude that's going to marry her, sign over all his assets, knowing that she, she ain't going to want to be bothered with him. And I mean, other than the resources, he going to be getting some, once a month activity. And he gets on that treadmill of happiness, running on that treadmill of happiness, just running, trying to please her. You see these guys following these women around. I mean, it's pathetic. They're just walking around with their head down like this, walking into the purse store, the Coach store, whatever, because now they're just a walking wallet. Because when you get with a woman who don't want to be with you and is only with you for money, it's not that women don't cost money, but I'm saying if that's all it is to you, you're gonna be on some treadmill of happiness, sponsoring everything, probably begging for some boxing, whatever else, because they want to try and keep that once a month activity going on and that woman on her arm, because they don't got nothing else going for themselves. And again, it's worse when you get with these older broads that are worse, scammers out here, because I know them. I know that activities of the past, but this is what we have right now going on in the culture, because we the social contract itself has been broken, and a lot of women born into feminism, which tells them to delay marriage and family to later in life. So if you delay marriage and family till you're 30 or 35, what are you doing in between? And it's not all women are ran through. What are you doing from 18? Well, they start younger than that, but from 18 to 35, you're not practicing celibacy. Because celibacy is really for the dude that don't arouse them, or the dude they're trying to cash in on. So if you're not practicing celibacy and you've been out here in the market for how many years, what exactly is that man getting in marriage? Is the question. What is he getting that's special? When a woman has been out here in the streets and she put on that white dress, she probably should burst in flames, because there's no purity in there. It's just straight, But relationships have gotten so bad, man. I was looking at this thing, right? Because even the lesbians are crashing out right now. I was looking at this situation, man. It was funny because I was looking at even the lesbians are like having a hard time, man. Like they see those who feels it know who feels it knows it, right? Here we go. Not that one. We go to the other one. He who feels it knows it. And sometimes people have to go through things to really understand, the debauchery out here, or what men face, because it's just a lack of empathy for men. Is it really a lack of empathy? But guys, make sure you hit the like button. Let me see how many likes we got here. We only got 18 likes. Bring it up to 20, guys, and you want to support the channel, you can. Please do. We want to keep these lives going. You got to support the channel. This is what I saw this, man. I was like, yo, they be crashing out. This is a lady from the alphabet community.
I was in a marriage with a woman for 11 years. I was the man. So when it comes down to it, no, I did not get appreciated. I barely got loved. It was horrible. So that is why some men come out here and be just doing their own thing, don't even care, because, bro, the experience was no woman is just out here trying to help her man. She expects her man to just do for her. And it dawned on me, like when women were growing up, I don't know one woman that was raised to know how to treat a man. I don't. I know that when I was being raised up and the people around me that was being raised up, our mamas taught us to pay attention to what you look for in a man. Pay attention to how or what he had, 6 figures, a car, a house. Nobody taught us how to love him. Nobody taught us how to take care of him when he's down. Nobody taught a woman how to nurture their man the correct way. We were just taught to look. We were just nurturers by nature. Nobody was taught how to nurture no man. I used to be gay. A lot of people don't know that. I was in a marriage with a woman for 11.
So she's saying she used to be, I mean, I don't know, some music in the background I'm concerned about. But she said she used to be gay. Once gay, always gay. But you know how it is. Economic challenges women are creatures of survival. Okay? Women will choose survival. That's what they will choose, survival. So she's crossed over from being a lesbian back into the heterosexual world because that shit is expensive. Paying for women's dinner and dealing with bullshit and emotional crap. She's getting a taste. Like, what's her name? Princella. She talks like this too now. She was dating women for a while until one of the women crashed out on her. And now she's back to, I don't know what she's probably still dating women, but she's talking about women and all this other stuff because they thought men were just bitching and moaning. They didn't understand what men were going through. But what I see now is like a lack of empathy for men. Lack of empathy for men. They really don't care. They really don't care. Especially these dudes right here. These dudes telling men to, you know, yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. He said they choose survival over their own children. They are survival machines that make up his camouflage. It's true. They choose survival. My brother Barry Hamilton, salute to you, man. Yeah, he said Fern knows that woman's advances. He said even lesbians. No, man, they be crashing out, man. They be crashing out. I have some videos like where these studs are like crashing out, man, because it's all fun and games until you get that check, until you get that bill. Until you get that bill. So the crazy part about all this is I want to get focused back on what matters, which is the laws. We have a modern world that exists, a modern culture, modern women that were raised to be different. We have this old, outdated marriage contract and social rules that were based upon a social contract that exists in the early 1900s or 1800s or whatever else. There's not those social constraints anymore. There's no shame. There's no accountability anymore. There is none for women. So what we see now is people are trying to shame men or disrespect men or take the focus. And that's why, you know, for me, I had to change the tone or the direction of, you know, because we're talking about Anton Daniels and Corey Holcomb and all this other stuff. But even when he talked about the brothers of the Passport Bros, the problem I have with a lot of these content creators is not that any movement is the answer. It's like they talk about the realities of a lot of modern women in modern society. And at the same time, they shame men for trying to get away from them. You can't say that the women, there's a problem with the majority of individuals, women that were not raised to be under the leadership of men. And many of the women, they're delusional and don't even see the average man as a viable option until they're older. Until they get older, and they're only going and making moves for economic reasons or financial reasons, or they're running out of time to pick the guy that they wanted doesn't really want them. So they have to find some safe, guy with good benefits and, to settle down with. And they're charging a hell of a price for that guy for access. And I saw with Dr. Ryan Taraban, he made that video. And it was so powerful because he talks about the difference between a lady and a prostitute. And it was crazy to think about it, but he made a valid point. And one second. That was a powerful. One second. Hold on 1 second. I want to get this out here because it really was a powerful, profound message from Dr. Taraban. Hold on a second. We got to switch this over. Give me a second, folks. I'm still operating on. I have one channel where they can get rid of the commercials out here. You don't want that out here. And really, it was so profound when he did this video. And when he talks about the death of the lady, and that's really what we're coming down to, because we're still asking men to hold on to these traditional values when women are not really. Salute to Dr. Taraban. We're going to play this, really. And really, this was really profound. Let's go ahead.
Dr. Ryan Taraban, and this is Psych Hacks, Better Living Through Psychology. And the topic for today's short talk is Death of the Lady. I had too much to say on this subject, so this will be the first installment of a two-part episode. In this series, I'll be discussing the contemporary sexual marketplace, why it looks the way it does, through the lens of the historical sexual marketplace. We have a lot of ground to cover, so let's get to it. In today's day and age, you often hear women complaining, where are all the real men? Is chivalry dead? Where are the gentlemen? The men who are willing to provide, to commit, to make the effort. Why can't I find a man who will treat me like the lady I am? What is wrong with men these days? Today, I'm going to be answering these questions and more for both men and women. To begin with, it's important to understand that ladies do not exist in nature, nor do gentlemen. Both ladies and gentlemen are social constructions, and to a large extent, social fictions. They exist within particular times and places, particular cultures, and they're primarily defined behaviorally, that is, by what they do and don't do.
Exactly. But feminism seek to change that. Let's continue.
Satisfy those behavioral criteria, and you earn the right to be acknowledged by others in that regard. A gentleman walks on the sidewalk closest to the street. A lady doesn't sit with her legs spread wide open, etc., etc. Act in spite of those behavioral criteria, and you lose the legitimate right to identify with that group. Sounds reasonable enough, right? Now, for better or for worse, for the better part of known history, there have been only two types of women in the sexual marketplace. There have been ladies, and there have been prostitutes. I could use another word here, but I don't want to alienate people in what is already a sensitive discussion. Ladies are women who became wives. Prostitutes are women who didn't. And there are many different kinds of prostitutes. High-end prostitutes like geishas and courtesans, run-of-the-mill prostitutes like streetwalkers and call girls, and even women who don't think of themselves as prostitutes, like libertines, free spirits, and bon vivants. The primary difference between ladies and prostitutes is that ladies put sex on the other side of marriage, and prostitutes didn't. By putting sex on the other side of marriage, ladies incentivize men to make honest women of them, meaning these women wouldn't then have to make a living dishonestly as prostitutes. Because in a world in which the vast majority of women literally were not allowed to work or own their own assets, it was either one or the other. Women were almost entirely dependent on men for their survival.
And that goes back to, sorry to stop the video, but I'll continue on. That goes back to the old social contract that they still want men to live under. When inflation, things are expensive in this society, women fought to be strong and independent, have their own job, have their careers. They don't want to listen to men. They don't want to be under men's leadership. This is the old social contract, but that no longer exists. So we cannot have these outdated, antiquated laws. Let's continue.
For the lady, those men were her father and then her husband. This was long-term provision, so you can think of being a lady as a kind of career. For the prostitute, those men were whoever was willing to pay, since prostitutes exchanged their sexual opportunity for resources and often directly for money. This was short-term provision, so you can think of being a prostitute as a kind of gig or job. And ladies had good reason to keep sex on the other side of marriage. That is, on the other side of permanent commitment and provision. There was no cheap, effective birth control available throughout most of human history. If a woman were to get pregnant without first securing the provision of a man, it could be a very difficult life for her and baby. And what if she were to die? What would happen to her child? Remember, childbirth was one of the leading causes of death in women until like the 20th century. The obstacles that prevented women from earning or owning their own wealth made securing male commitment and provision a literal matter of life and death.
Bingo. Now we have the hormonal birth control. Now we have better medical care. Now women have jobs and resources and access to medical benefits and benefits through their job. So the world has changed. The environment has changed. But they're trying to get men to operate under an old, outdated reality that no longer exists.
And functionally prohibited from joining the workforce, the primary ways that women could secure those resources were as a lady or as a prostitute. Now, as with most things in life, one of these methods wasn't inherently better than the other. Like, you would think that all women would prefer to be ladies, but that actually isn't the case, as we'll see. Yes, ladies were respectable and generally treated better than prostitutes, but being a lady came with many significant restrictions on a woman's freedom. Ladies couldn't do whatever they wanted because, well, not all behavior is ladylike. On the other hand, prostitutes, while stigmatized and marginalized, could potentially create lives more on their terms. And both ladies and prostitutes could be mistreated or idolized by the men in their lives. Contrary to popular belief, that doesn't consistently fall along group lines. Many courtesans have lived more comfortably than many wives, though it was rare for wives to slip through the cracks of society. So it's important to understand that I'm using these terms without judgment. Introducing my innovative first novel, Starry Night. Step into the world of painter. Challenge what you think you know about each other. In fact, these two groups have historically hated each other. Ladies hate prostitutes because, on some level, prostitutes are selling sexual opportunity more cheaply than ladies are, which threatens ladies' ability to transact at their desired price point. So ladies call prostitutes whores and tramps and homewreckers and sluts, etc., in an attempt to make them more socially undesirable, and the men who relate to them socially undesirable by association. On the other hand, prostitutes hate ladies because they believe ladies are self-righteous or deluded hypocrites who think that they are much better than they actually are. And of course, the prostitutes also envied the ladies' respectability, and the ladies often envied the prostitutes' freedom. So there's that. In any case,
I'm laughing because I'm going to stop you back up. I'm laughing because society is basically, they've worn us down to a level where, lady and prostitute, what is, but the value is so gaslit, and the empowerment is so great by government and society and the social, environment, that even 304s are gaslighting as ladies. And then we have a bunch of simps that believe that shit, they're literally rebranding themselves. And the women themselves, because there's so many women that have mismanaged their youth, that what exactly are men getting between the two in terms of long-term relationships? But let's continue on.
This historical animosity between ladies and prostitutes is a little puzzling for a couple of reasons. In the first place, the two groups need each other, like they need each other in a very real way. Prostitutes need ladies because the existence of ladies creates the opportunity for prostitutes to do business. If there were no ladies, then the sexual marketplace would be flooded with prostitutes, significantly driving down the price of sexual opportunity. Prostitutes satisfy a need that ladies won't, right here, right now. And that, surprisingly, is why ladies need prostitutes. This is very important. Listen to me. If there weren't an underclass of women willing to satisfy men's sexual needs cheaply and easily, well, I doubt that men would long put up with the ladies' nonsense. What does that mean? In my opinion, one of the main reasons why gentlemen were willing to put up with the extended courtship of the lady and the lifetime of matrimony that followed was that they weren't really going to ladies for sex. There were prostitutes for sex, both before they got married and after. Ladies were about reproduction, which obviously involves sex, and the consolidation of resources across one's bloodline, which, given uncertain paternity, was a big reason why men themselves preferred that ladies, but not women in general, put sex on the other side of marriage.
Bingo.
After all, they could get sex elsewhere. Why else would they jump through all the ridiculous hoops and constraints involved in courting a lady, especially in a society where they had all of the power? Prostitutes were social sacrifices that ensured the lady's survival. And that's a deeper psychological explanation for the animosity between these two groups. No one likes being a sacrifice for someone else's good against their consent, and no one likes being reminded of their role in this iniquity. And of course, the biggest reason why ladies and prostitutes have hated each other is, frankly, they're so similar. It's like the North and South Koreans, or the English and the Irish, or the Hutu and the Tutsi, from the perspective of like every other culture on the planet. These groups are actually more similar than not. And so they tend to fight bloodily over the relatively small differences that individuate them. In point of fact, the main difference between a lady and a prostitute is the cost of the transaction, how much they value their sexual opportunity. One group sells it for dinner and drinks or a little money. The other group sells it for a lifetime of provision or a lot of money. I mean, what does a man's status or wealth have to do with love? But we all know what we mean when we say a man is an eligible bachelor. And it's not that he's kind and likes long walks on the beach. But wait a minute. If all women were prostitutes, it would flood the market with cheap sexual opportunity given the overabundance of supply, right? It would be a...
And unfortunately, brothers, I'm gonna play the video and keep continuing, but that's where we're going now. The market is flooded with transactions at this point, and it's getting worse with the economy. Let's continue on.
Race to the bottom. Well then, why don't all women just like form a coalition and decide to be ladies as a unified front? You know, kind of like a union to guarantee higher wages and more equitable treatment for all. Well, in the first place, it's because not all women can be ladies. That is, some women either cannot or will not abide by the behavioral restrictions that give that designation meaning. And there are certainly women that men would not want to relate to at a higher price point. And these women would then be locked out of the sexual marketplace entirely. It's also possible for unions to go too far, which is kind of what happened in the business world of the 20th century. Unions grew so demanding and so expensive that eventually most employers refused to deal with them, especially considering that a lower paycheck for one worker is still a higher paycheck for another worker somewhere. It's like living in a town full of Michelin star restaurants. Eventually, someone is going to take advantage of the vacancy in the market and open up a taco truck. And hungry diners, sick of rich foods and exorbitant prices, will line up around the block. However, if that taco truck starts putting on airs and decides it wants to charge the same as a full course meal in a sit-down restaurant, it's going to see its client base quickly dry up. Many otherwise good companies fail because they get pricing wrong. This is not about business. In any case, that's enough for today. I'll pick up the thread of the argument in part 2 coming soon.
So what he's basically saying is you're dealing with a this is the problem. He's really saying this in a nutshell. That's what we're dealing with right now. And I actually, I was talking to my brother, the Kosher Condition, about this. We're going to end up in a horribly prostituted environment. I mean, with the economy, we've gotten rid of all the social norms and values that restrained anybody from selling. But what he's basically saying is this: you're asking men to pay these traditional prices and get involved in a legal system that can completely destroy them, even if it's not just the money, is taking away that man's children from him, alienating it from his children. And you're getting the situation where, men are getting what's left on the background. This is why I have a problem with guys like Scott Galloway. You're asking men to be better for worse. And my thing with the women is that if you're going to be a 304, stay on that highway. But what we see now is the rebranding And they're trying to go back and get that guy that wouldn't have dated when they were 23. And now they're 30 something, 40, or they've been out here just enjoying whatever. And they're coming to the table because of social media and the particular society that we are. They're trying to inflate their value really to dudes that don't know no better, or dudes that are just thirsty or desperate or whatever else, when they have completely mismanaged their resources. And that, what's that saying? Women are born at the top of the mountain and men have to earn their way up. But they have worked their way down that mountain to the bottom. And now they're gaslighting value. They're gaslighting value. And this is why I talk about just men just experiencing global travel, just to see the world, learning other cultures and move around. Because again, the virus of feminism is global and there's all kinds of delusion going on globally. But you want to see the world, explore the world, see what's out here, learn about other cultures, learn about other realities, and then you see the value of things in more traditional culture. In some cultures, like I did a video the other day about the South Koreans. They're having some serious issues. Them dudes is like, hell no, because the price that the women were charging in terms of traditional values and whatever, they don't have any more traditional values. They just drunk from the poison river of feminism, and they just basically became so insufferable that the men are like, they just refuse to marry them. They just transact them. And they're transacting women all over the place. The men themselves in South Korea, their birth rate is plummeted. The society is basically crashing. They're talking about the society dying out. And that's the sad reality of it. But you're asking men to be better for worse, which is, I have a problem with a lot of these dudes. You know? Yeah, I mean, he said, oh, we'll take away women's jobs and who's going to want them after 100 dudes been, well, you got some simps, man, you know. And it's not just that they are promiscuous, they offer no value as helpers. The female lawyer going to work every day is useless to me, but a woman who wants to cook and clean, it's not. Well, again, none of the skills of the past. And that female lawyer is going to still want you to pay all the bills. So they're trying to, like, worse is to me, it's like the older women that's been feminist their whole life and working, talking about man paying all the bills and traditional man, you got 3 kids or 2 kids and you've been out here on the market. Like, they're not just looking for companionship. They're trying to get that contract, because that state contract is about power. So what we got to do is when we look at the marriage contract, right? The marriage contract itself, think of the word leverage. The marriage contract for a woman, and the reason why they ask for so much is because it's leverage. It's power and control and leverage within a relationship, because they've already mismanaged their youth. The ability to compel you, control you in a way through the state, the ability to control you through the state, to have power over you. So marriage equals leverage to the modern woman, because if they cared about being married to men or being with men, they would get married to men in their 20s, early 20s, while they're still young and fertile. So to them, the marriage is leverage and power. The ability to be disrespectful in a relationship, especially many of them that get older, not all women, but they want to rest in their disrespect. They can disrespect, offer mediocrity, and you can't get rid of them easily because they have that marriage contract. And not only that, especially if they got your kids and they have leverage. So the marriage contract that exists in the secular world is about leverage. Leverage is what it's about. It's not about love. It's not about togetherness. It's not about building family. It's about, I can deliver you mediocrity and you cannot get rid of me. You cannot just get rid of me like that. And that's why even these older women trying to get married, gaslighting value, after they've already lived their life, It's about power, leverage, and the ability to seize assets. You think an older woman, when she talks to her girlfriend about a guy, she's looking at his house, his car, his money, how much he makes every year, you know, how she can leverage that under a secular contract of marriage. It's about power. It's about lifestyle. And not that people should want to live a good lifestyle, but it's going to be funded on your back. That's what it really comes down to. And the leverage in the state is just an extraction tool. There ain't no love or anything else like that. And that's what you have now with the modern situation, the modern dating, modern relationship. And it just comes down to pure leverage. I mean, what have they been raised to be? They've been raised to be strong, independent, boss chicks. Get on your own. You don't need no man. Men-ish. Men need to be doing this. Sometimes they think that, you know, I mean, these relationships now, many times, they're just a whole phase reset. If they get in and out of a relationship. And it's not like you're new. You're not new. You're guy number 10. You're guy number 5. No, the guy number 20. There's nothing new about you to these women. Yeah, you got it. He said, I seen the mediocrity trend in my last relationship. Dumped her and moved on before any real investment was made or procreation. Yeah. That's what it really comes down to. And that's why they pressure a lot of dudes into that marriage, because they want power. They understand. A lot of dudes think that women don't understand the imbalance with men in the state. Women understand it very well. That's why they want you signed to these contracts. They'll shame and disrespect and shame and shame and shame and shame. And you have these guys, I call them you know, all these pastors and all these guys that stick their head in the sand. They're the worst. They're the worst. They're the worst. They'll tell you to do something or encourage you to do something. And when that thing explodes, they are missing. You know, you can't find them dudes. That's why you gotta ask them. Ask any of these dudes. So if I take your advice and I get into this situation, and the woman that I get with, I found out that she had 200 bodies on her, and now she's divorcing me. She wants to take my kids. She's trying to clean out my pension fund. She wants the house and everything. Do you dudes got my back over here at the church? Are y'all gonna help me with this alimony? This child support? I'm being alienated from my kids. Man, them dudes be like, hell no. Kick rocks. Yeah. You say, Jamie, say having kids in a rural environment is an investment. If you look at it's economic in urban settings, it's a liability, that a major factor in the decline of marriage in the West. Well, it's just a matter of the juice ain't worth the squeeze. There's inflation, there's the economy, it costs a lot of money to raise kids. Women are more feminists and raised to focus on their careers. They raised to hate men. You know, we got to also consider male hating culture. You know, you're talking to an indoctrinated woman with the persecution mentality. They see men as their persecutors. It's false narrative of men. They have that color purple narrative in their brain. When they look at you, they've been programmed in their brain that you're their oppressor. So they don't want to fall into your leadership anyhow. Or they have these deep-seated ideologies embedded in their system, you know, have how they see men, how they view men. And that's why a lot of these women, they ask for these high standards in men, because they don't really like men. Well, they ask for these high standards and high income in the men they don't really like, because who they had sex with in the past, ain't made no money near any the things that they be asking for. I mean, the guy that they enjoyed them, he doesn't make any of that money. He doesn't really make. He hasn't made any of that money his whole life. What's his sister here with this clip? Let me see. Who we have? Yeah, the guys they mess with don't make that kind of money, man. They just. Let's see. What is she saying? Let's check out what the sister's saying here. Hold on 1 second. Go ahead.
Literally, they will stop asking how he feels and everything is about what he does. He becomes the provider, the protector, the solution, the fixer, the one that everybody leans on. And slowly, without anybody realizing it, he becomes invisible. Nobody checks on him. They don't ask if he's tired, if he's struggling, if he's overwhelmed. Everybody just assumes that he has it all handled. His value is tied to what he provides. It's not about who he is, how he feels, and what he needs. The sad part is the moment he slows down, says that he is tired, cannot do what he used to do, all of a sudden everybody is noticing him. But not to support him, but literally to ask questions, to judge him, and to criticize, and to remind him of what he used to do. Unfortunately, men do not disappear. They literally get buried under responsibility. And a man who is never seen eventually starts to feel alone in a room full of people that he loves.
Deep. I'll let you guys hear that again.
It is crazy when a man gains responsibility in his life, and I'm talking about a wife, a kids, and family, something strange happens. Literally, they will stop asking how he feels and everything is about what he does. He becomes the provider, the protector, the solution, the fixer, the one that everybody leans on. And slowly, without anybody realizing it, he becomes invisible. Nobody checks on him. They don't ask if he's tired, if he's struggling, if he's overwhelmed. Everybody just assumes that he has it all handled. His value is tied to what he provides. It's not about who he is, how he feels, and what he needs. The sad part is the moment he slows down, says that he is tired, cannot do what he used to do, all of a sudden everybody is noticing him. But not to support him, but literally to ask questions, to judge him, and to criticize, and to remind him of what he used to do. Unfortunately, men do not disappear. They literally get buried under responsibility. And a man who is never seen eventually starts to feel alone in a room full of people that he loves. It is crazy.
And that's true. She is absolutely correct. And I think that's what's happening in a lot of relationships. A lot of guys, what's that saying, live life with quiet desperation. It's rough out here because it's all one-sided equation. It's a one-sided equation. Pouring into others. And a lot of guys have to live in that environment, unfortunately, in the current culture, because again, there's no social contract. And that's why I talk about all the time on this channel about what is the definition of a real man. What is a real man today? You know, because whenever they talk about what a real man is, you know, it's always about something that benefits them. So in my opinion, we modern men are not respected because we are kind of a joke compared to the men of the past. We don't explore, we don't conquer, we don't change the system. All we do is pay taxes. That's true. We have half the testosterone too. Well, that's designed too, you know, because again, systematically over the last 70 years, they have been feminizing men systematically. So they've been wearing men down, pushing men down to empower and uplift women. So they've been doing this systematically. Look at what's being pushed now. And they were attacking manhood and masculinity at an extreme level to uplift women. Obviously, women do 80% of the spending. So systematically, they've been pushing this. I mean, now to the point where we challenge the notion of what is a man, or what is a woman. So they've been working on this for a long time, creating systems in place to make men more feminine or more in touch with their feeling, to control the population so we don't challenge the powers that be. So women can spend freely without checks and balances. I think so systematically there's an issue there. So they always talk about, well, if you want to change this, you got to change the system. Because look at how they describe manhood and masculinity. It's nothing more than a disposable tampon. And that's what every woman, when she talks about manhood now, is talking about something to be used and discarded. Unless they're talking about their family member, everything else to them is something that's disposable. But now we're dealing with some economic challenges, and we're going to see this happen quite a bit. Spinning the block on men for sponsorship, that's the new reality. Because shit is high now. It's real high. It's real high. It's costing money right now out here in this world. So that's going to be a huge factor now. And I even see this from women coming over from the alphabet community, coming back over. Because it's all this, our ideologies is one thing when the economy is good and the social environment or that power structure of empowering women is there with all the different programs that are out there and all of the different attitudes and mindset. But this is a whole new dynamic that's been injected into the atmosphere. And inflation is a B. So a lot of the women, like I said, spinning the block on the guy they wouldn't date when they were 23. That's going to be happening quite frequently. Spinning the block on that guy. Coming back to the table. Wanting to renegotiate. There's going to be a lot of renegotiation. They're trying to do it through the church now, because what happens with the church, they can use religion, especially in Christianity. Jesus has forgiven me for my sins. Whatever happened, those 200 bodies in the past is the past. And the pastor, he says a couple of Hail Marys and throw some holy water on her and say, look, son, there's your wife. The rebranded 200 bodies, that's your new lady. And that's why I have a problem with some of these conservatives too, because they're like, man, they didn't mention sign up for that shit. Oh, she's a good woman. She serves the church. So the rebranding scam is going to be big out here now. But I think right now we've disintegrated into a world of pure, for the most part, prostitution. I mean, it's gotten terrible out here, man. I don't even know what I'm looking at nowadays. You know what I mean? And yeah, I don't know what I'm looking at right now. Because what happens inevitably too is we have this. Nobody talks about this. Which is relationships are not really lasting, because anybody with any healthy self-esteem, after he has relieved himself and he starts looking at the package deal that he's signing up for. If you look at this transitions into this. It really does. So we go from this to this. And we got a whole lot of disappointed dudes, man. It's just like, the dude's like, oh my goodness. Especially when the history, the Carfax or the HFAX report comes out on the woman that you call your love. You're going to have a serious crisis when you find out that maybe half the basketball team had their way with your future spouse. It's not good. That's a terrible thing, a terrible reality to have, right? You find out like you do the HFAX report and you find out that half the basketball team have enjoyed. What kind of pride do you have to walk with? Like you walk down the street, right? Women don't understand that. Like you walking with your girl, and then you look, then some dude across the street, he waves and say, "Hey, what's up? What's going on?" He hollering at her and you say, "Who the hell is that dude?" And the dude, like, he ain't look like he's doing really well. He's just struggling right now. Oh, that's my ex from the past. You slept with that dude? But you're gonna have to pay the ultimate price. You gotta marry this woman who slept with that dude over there. And he ain't looking so good. You gotta pay the price of marriage and long-term relationship. That's the problem that we have with inflation and the issues I have with Scott Galloway and men like him. He's asking for men to be better for worse. Not better for themselves, but better for worse. I understand he's an agent and they want, they're concerned about reproduction and whatever else, but you got to put a better product on the market. Come on. A better product. You offer a better product, maybe it would inspire the young men. But anyhow, I'm about to get out of here, gentlemen. What time is it now? 4:20. The markets is closed. I enjoy you. Hey, peace and blessings to all you guys. Thank you guys for subscribing to the channel and supporting the channel. You can send a super chat. You can donate via Cash App to the channel if you choose. But I'm out of here for the day, gentlemen. Peace and blessings to you guys. Have a good day. I want to get this back on the real track, talking about the things that matter to men. Because it's the laws that matter. I mean, everything else is just hot air. It's just talk. It's just bullshit. It's what matters is the laws. At the end of the day, if they ain't changing, what the hell else are you doing? Unless you want to sign up to get tortured. I'm out of here, gentlemen. Peace and blessings to you.